You are listening to Salty Believer Unscripted, a conversation on Christian ministry and the Christian life.
This is Salty Believer Unscripted. I'm Josiah Walker.
I'm Brian Catherman.
And today we have a special guest with us, Brett Ricley from Iowa.
Welcome back, Brett.
Welcome, Brett.
Hey, guys.
We're recording this over Zoom, so hopefully everything works well and people can hear us. And praise God for technology.
They can't see his Salt Lake sweatshirt, even though he is in freezing cold Iowa, ice storm Iowa.
Yeah, it's great. Another snowpocalypse in the great city of Des Moines.
Awesome.
Well, I'm glad we're doing this in-house and in the comfort of some warm indoors rather than on location on the street.
Yikes.
On location on the street just so we can enjoy the fun of that. Cars going by.
Absolutely. The reason we're here and meeting with Brett today is because we're getting ready, Brian and I, to go to a preaching workshop with the Simeon Trust.
Woo, Charles Simeon Trust.
In just a couple of weeks. And Brett has gone to these workshops before. Have you gone once or twice? Or
yeah, twice over the last 2 years.
Where do you go to them, or which ones have you gone to?
Yeah, so I live in Des Moines, Iowa, and they have a workshop every year here in Des Moines. And so
that's convenient.
Yeah, thankfully for me, I live on like the northwest part of Des Moines in a smaller city. Yeah, it's only 20 minutes for me to drive to the church that hosts it every year. It's at the same church, a great E-Free church here in town, solid church. And been able to go 2 years in a row.
Has it been at that church for longer than that and you just plugged in, or did they just start 2 years ago?
No, they've been doing it. So they've been doing Simeon Trust workshops in Des Moines, and I don't know this perfectly, but they've been in Des Moines, I think, for probably a decade.
Oh, okay.
Maybe even more. This church that I've been going to, it's called Westchester E-Free. I think they've been hosting it for at least the last 6 to 8 years. There's a pretty big following in Des Moines for Simeon Trust. And so it's been pretty cool to see it grow over the last few years, especially.
We got a ton of questions for you about the workshops, but on that note, you've gone to 2, you said?
Yep.
Did you see the second time? Did you see a lot of the people that were there the first time?
Yeah.
Like a lot of repeat type. Are you planning on going to a third? Like, are you going to go back and do another one?
I think so. I mean, every year, and we'll get into this probably more too, but every year they pick a different genre of literature to be the main course of study for the workshop. So the first year that I went, they were doing Old Testament narrative. So we studied Judges. And then last year they were doing Gospels and we did John. And I don't know what next year's workshop will be. There was rumors that it would be an epistle. So, a lot of those to choose from.
We're going to an epistle.
Yeah.
2 Timothy,
nice.
Right?
This is helpful. Nice. This is exactly why we have you on the podcast, because I want to know what to expect, what to prepare for. It's nice to know that you can go multiple times and it's different and you're going through different topics and different things. It's not just, well, I went once, so I'm good.
Yeah.
So we're getting ready to go, and there's some prep work you have to do kind of on the beforehand before you go out there, right?
Let's be honest.
Yes.
Did you do the pre-work? You were prepped, right?
I did. The first year that I went,
I just interrupted you, but were there people who didn't?
Oh yeah.
Oh, bummer.
Like any good class, you've got you've got the straight A students who were sitting in the front row and they did their homework and they're like, I did everything, like what a teacher's pet, and then you've got the people who are like, oh, I didn't know what to do, so I did nothing. And then you've got the people in between who are like, I think I figured it out, but I'm not really confident in it, and then you've got the very small minority of people who've been doing it for a long time who are like, yeah, I did it pretty easy, so it really depends on, there's a lot to talk about here, but if you're not familiar with expository preaching and the exegetical work that entails, you're going to be really probably overwhelmed with the homework. For you guys preach that way, teach that way. It's probably not going to be that hard or overwhelming. It was newer to me a little bit, but not really, because we spent time, doing ministry together and doing expository preaching and things like that. And so I was familiar with what most of the sermon prep worksheets entailed, but they're still they do it kind of a slightly different way than other things I'd learned. So basically, before you sign up, you get a worksheet. It's called their sermon preparation worksheet. It's just 2 pages, front and back. It's pretty short, but obviously they have a pathway or kind of a process that they want you to practice. And so you'll get assigned 2 passages, depending on whatever, book you're studying. So the first year was Judges. So I got assigned 2 different passages in Judges, and then had to fill out a worksheet showing my work essentially. What's the melodic line, which is like, what's the theme of the book? What's the main point of your passage? What would be your preaching outline? And you don't have to preach it to anybody, but they just want to basically see how would you prepare if you were going to, and they want to see your work essentially. And so
that's the part that kind of makes me nervous the most is I haven't been preaching that much. I've got maybe 30 sermons under my belt.
Getting a little more.
Yeah, I'm getting some more. You've got way more than that because you used to be one of my pastors here in Salt Lake. So as someone who's maybe a little
not much more, but
experienced in that area, should I be nervous about kind of bringing that worksheet to some other experienced pastors, or are they kind and loving in that? Or?
Don't draw doodles on it and you'll be fine.
Yeah, no cartoons and you'll be fine. No. No, I was definitely nervous. I mean, I haven't preached near even comparably to Brian, or other pastors. I don't preach full time. I'm an associate pastor, so I don't preach every week. I preach probably 10 times a year, maybe 20 now. I'm not sure, but I was a little bit nervous as well. Not because I'm like, I have no idea how to study the text. It's more of I'm nervous in terms of, am I doing what they're asking for? And is my work kind of, hitting on what they're looking for, and just the kind of an insecurity of like, am I doing this the right way compared to what they're wanting? But have you done any online courses? I have access to them. I have started the first principles and haven't finished it.
The first principles is, I think I'm doing the commercial. There's probably like some people who stand up and do commercials when you're there. They've asked me to do one of those, like, hey, promote these things.
Oh yeah. Yep.
I'm promoting the online courses because I've done almost all of them. I don't know which one. I don't think I've done the
Nice.
poetry like this, but I've done almost all of them. And I think once you start to see their system, you start to realize, okay, I get what they're doing. So I think that'll at least make me feel you're doing first principles.
Yeah,
have you done first principles before you went to your first workshop? So that was probably maybe some of that nervousness too, is like, quite what they're getting.
Yeah. Yeah, and obviously, there's a lot of different ways that people approach hermeneutics and exegesis and different things like that. And so I had learned bits and pieces of that through seminary and other things, and stuff that we would work on together, even in ministry. But they have a specific roadmap called the pathway, right? And they walk you through that. And so, working on the worksheets was, fun. It was like, wow. And honestly, for me, Judges was like, I hadn't dug into that book a whole lot either. So it was kind of a newer book to me to study. And so it was a little intimidating, not going to lie, for the first workshop, because you don't know what to expect. They don't exactly know what they want with these worksheets. They tell you to kind of be brief, because it's only they don't want you to print 10 pages. They say print your worksheet front and back, and then print 10 copies for your small group. And basically they're like, we don't want to see 20 pages. We don't want to see 10. We want to see 1 page. I'm like, whoa. So you really have to boil it down to what are the main things, the main timeless principles, the main application, a short outline of what you would preach. So it was a little intimidating, but I don't know how, if you want me to just kind of keep rambling into different aspects of what I enjoyed about it, or if you had specific questions. But
well, we do have one very specific question we don't want to run out of time on: the snacks. Okay, so was your host church providing you stuff? Were there good breaks? Like, how'd you feel like that went?
I need a pack bar. That's what I want to know.
Yeah, no, it was great actually. I mean, I'm sure every church does it differently, but thankfully for the church that we had it at, it was phenomenal hospitality. Unlimited coffee and water and flavored waters and snacks and donuts and homemade stuff. The catered lunch, super nice, very well done, very professional. I feel like they definitely do good.
Like, you had your session, right? Like they're teaching. Then you had your breakouts where you're in your small groups. I've seen that on the schedule and stuff. And I think that's where some of the online courses have gotten some of their material from, is various workshops. But were you able to like network with people? Were there good breaks? Did you feel like the whole structure of the 2 days flowed well? I mean, ramble away, but those are the bigger questions we're trying to figure out.
Yeah. So I'll kind of start with what I think would be the greatest strengths for these workshops. Like, definitely the great environment. I think it's 3 days actually. At least mine was. It's 3 days, 2 full days, and kind of a short half day on the third day. So definitely a lot. I mean, it's like 8 to 5 basically for the first 2 days, and then it's like 8 to noon on the third day. So it's a lot of hours. It's a big commitment. But I think one of the best strengths of it are the variety of teaching and learning methods that are deployed throughout that whole workshop. It's not just sit and listen to a lecture for 20 hours. So they've got explanation. Here's the concept. Here's the principle. And then they combine that in the midst of the large group session with demonstration. So if I'm teaching on the principle of exegesis or something, I'll say, here's the principle. And now open your Bibles to John 4. We're going to see how this works. If here's the principle of theological reflection, open your Bible. We're going to look at Mark 9. And so they do that in the large group setting. So it's like the guest speaker, whoever that guy is. And our workshop was probably maybe only 80 to 90 guys. So it wasn't huge. So you could do that in one room where you could say, all right, everyone turn to Mark 9. And then he'll just say, all right, so what do we see here? And then anyone in the room can just kind of say, oh, we see this or we see that. And the speaker is engaging with all of us as we're all opening our Bibles together. So I think that is helpful.
If you do the other, I don't think they do that. I think the first principles class is David Helm in a small room. But I think the other online courses, they're not always at the same courses, but you'll notice like they're in a big group. They're doing you see some of that in those online courses. They edit them so you're not sitting there listening to everybody shout out the answers.
Which is
jumps
good.
ahead, but you can tell that. So it sounds like that's probably where they took a lot of those classes.
Yeah. And it's helpful, and it makes it feel less intimidating. It's kind of more of a casual, informal environment. Obviously, it's formal in terms of teaching. They've got slides. They've got an iPad that as they draw different things or put things up. They have
a whole set of pictures because you go through more of those online courses. Like, wait a minute, okay, so let's draw a melodic line picture. That's the same picture. Let's draw a drunk guy. Like David Helm, I think obviously created all the pictures for him, but
it is.
All right. I was just going to ask kind of what was the dress code. I feel like churches are all very different. I know some churches where you have to wear a shirt and tie and jacket to every class. Was the dress code pretty casual there, or what should our listeners expect?
Yeah, I mean, again, probably every work. Yeah, sorry. I mean, in California, I don't know, man. I mean, it's probably more casual there than it is in Iowa. Most of the guys at ours are wearing, jeans and a polo. Some guys are tucking their shirts in, and it's got, no one's in a suit and tie.
Okay.
It's even the speakers, which we didn't have David Helm. I think I can't remember who the main Simeon guys were that we had the first one, but we've had like Greg Gilbert at the last one. I mean, they're in a button down shirt tucked in with jeans, so pretty casual. It was cold here too, so that's why.
I feel like communication's been really great. Brian and I, we're about 2 weeks out from our class, and already the host church has sent us kind of our passages that we need to fill out that worksheet on, and a copy of the worksheet and some explanation on how to fill out that worksheet. I even got a text message from my host church just saying, hey, did you get everything? Did you have any questions? So I feel like that's been really great.
I had a back and forth. I actually emailed them because Daniel's going with us.
Right.
And they were really gracious to allow him to come and shadow because he's under their age requirement,
right.
But
that's
he's
your son.
Desperate to be a pastor and want to preach. And so it was good. A lot of good back and forth. It worked really well.
Is there anything that you would say, oh man, I wish I had known this beforehand, or hey, plan to do this, or maybe bring this with you? Something that maybe wasn't talked about that you thought, hey, this is really helpful if you do X.
Besides your Bible, it's pretty obvious you probably should bring your Bible, right?
Oh man. Yeah, if you don't show up with a Bible
on their phones, sorry, but I wonder, it seems like you'd want your paper Bible,
I would say if you show up with just your phone, you're going to be looked at as a noob, just don't be that guy. I mean, I saw no tablets, I saw no phones. I mean, everyone's carrying around a paper Bible, and they give you, at least at ours, they gave us a free, really nice ESV, leather Bible as a gift for being there. So I don't know if they do that at every workshop, but
that was going to be one of my questions too, because here at Redeemed, my friend and I, we both preach from the Christian Standard Bible, and I was wondering, am I going to look weird? Do they have like a translation they use? Did they use the ESV, or do I need to bring my King James Bible?
That's a pretty good question.
Just bring your King James 1611.
Bring your Greek and Hebrew.
Do I need to bring my interlinear? Like, what do I need?
Yeah. Just the ESV concordance, the interlinear, you'll be fine. No, I mean, I think most of the guys there had ESV, but they made comments all throughout, like we're not, endorsing one translation over the other. Obviously, in those types of camps, typically a more literal translation like NASB, ESV, those types of things are more common. But yeah, no message. If you show up with a message, you're a noob. They're just going to put you in a corner. You probably get laughed out of the room.
Out of my backpack. I'll be right back.
Yeah. So don't do that. No, I think overall they were, I mean, the preparation, the emails and all that stuff were really helpful. I don't think I walked in, unprepared for anything other than just I didn't know what to expect, which that's unavoidable. But I do feel like the strengths are so good with the variety. Again, you get demonstration, you get explanation. And then in the small groups, that was probably the most intimidating environment for the first year for me, because again, I'm bringing my work and I'm handing it out to the entire group. Again, you don't preach anything. You just say here, we read the text out loud, we read my passage, and then someone to my right or left is kind of my reviewer or critiquer. And I just walk through my worksheet and explain, hey, here's what I found. Here's why I came up with this. Here's why I came up with that. And then I have 5 minutes. They actually time you. It's very strict. You have 5 minutes to present your work, no more. And then the guy to your right or left has, I think, 1 minute to respond. And again, it's timed, very strict. And they're like, you get, tell Brett one thing, you really liked about his work, and then give him some constructive criticism that he can work on, or ask him a question about his work. And then after that, then it opens up to the rest of the small group. And same thing, they get to ask questions. They get to say, where'd you come up with that? Or they can say, hey, that was really good. I didn't notice that. And so that's the most intimidating environment for me, because obviously it's like you're standing there and you've got all these other, typically they're pastors or leaders or, elders in churches, different things. So these are guys who know the word, and you're kind of like, yeah, I'm kind of putting my work out there. And you get to kind of get critiqued on, are you kind of interpreting or exegeting the passage well? Did you miss the mark? And there's obviously some nuances, about interpretation, like, well, I see it this way. I kind of see it that way. And I feel like the small groups have always been very gracious about that. I mean, obviously there's things that are majoring on the majors. There's some, interpretive things that are like, well, that's going to be a difference we disagree on, but that's okay. But that was probably the most intimidating environment, but still very helpful, because in a room like that, you've got such wisdom from a lot of other guys. And one of the other strengths of, I think, Simeon Trust is all of the small group leaders are highly experienced and trained small group leaders who've been doing this for probably 5, 6, 7, 8 years. So they know the Simeon way, if you will, but they also are pretty knowledgeable Bible students that are going to be pretty knowledgeable as well. And last thing I'll say, then I'll be quiet for a minute, is the small group leaders have to go through a training even before they start the workshop. And so it's pretty cool. The small group leaders show up a day or two before. They go through all the passages together, all the leaders, and they make sure they kind of have a general sense of what the text says, the main things, melodic line. That way, when you get into small groups, they're not going, oh, that's a great question, we have no idea, So it's very, very well prepared, I feel like, from beginning to end.
So we're not sponsored or anything by Simeon Trust. We love these guys, but I think that we'd be open to some critique, at least from our perspective. If you could change one thing, if there was something you went, man, I don't know about this, or this is something I didn't like so much, or this is something I would think would be better if, is there anything like that you would change? What do you think you'd change?
Oh, that's a good question.
I mean, we're going to have Walker Kinney on, and we can tell him directly, but no pressure.
Yeah. No, I can't think of anything major at the moment. I mean, I think depending, and this is so circumstantial, but I mean, sometimes some of the small groups that I've been in, I did feel like some of the smaller group leaders were not as prepared as some of the others. And I think that might just become maybe just more from personal experience of being in the Word and doing exegetical work maybe a certain way. But, that's kind of a light critique. Overall, I really don't have much to critique. I feel like it's a pretty helpful thing. The variety of the content and learning stuff, I think, is so helpful. But there was one year that I had so every small group leader also has kind of like a co-leader, and sometimes those co-leaders, I just feel like weren't as prepared and helpful, or even in the comments and the critiques and stuff, it's kind of like, I don't think that's even really what we're talking about. So, some of those guys are learning, and that's why they're a co-leader. They're kind of like a small group leader in training. So you kind of have to give them grace on that.
What happens afterwards? Like, is there encouragement to be in a cohort? I mean, you guys are all those people right from the Des Moines area. People fly in. I mean, we're driving 12 hours to go to one, but was there, I mean, what was kind of the after? Just nothing, and then you hear about it again the next year, or what happened after you were done?
Yeah, that's a good question. And maybe that would be an area maybe that could be improved. There is no follow-up necessarily for anything. It's just, here's the workshop, see you next year. Now, most of us are in Des Moines for the Des Moines one, but they're all over the state. They travel to Des Moines from all over the state. Again, if you're in Des Moines, we some of us pastors know each other from being in the same city. But yeah, there is no additional connection or sharpening throughout the year, which maybe could be a great feedback for critique, or a suggestion is, maybe there could be a local component throughout the year to kind of keep touching base or certain things like that. But yeah, most of the guys are familiar, but there's really nothing that's going on throughout the year.
Would this be something that you would find? I know we're running out of time, Josiah, the timekeeper, he's keeping an eye on me. Would this be something that you would find would be valuable to travel somewhere else? Like, let's say you might come to the LA one. Is it LA, Southern LA, wherever we're going, Southern California?
Mm-hmm.
Like, hey, would it be, if you knew other guys around the country, would this be something that you think would be valuable to say, hey, let's all go to the same one in this location, so you're networking with those individuals? Or if we hosted one in Salt Lake, if they'd be so gracious to put one here, whatever. Is that something you would feel like it's worth doing? Or are we crazy that we're going to drive to LA to go do one of these?
No, I don't think you're crazy at all. I mean, I would probably travel to go one. I mean, there's a lot of guys that do that already as well. They'll say, yeah, we see that, because not every workshop is doing the same book across the country, right? And so, like, we did John this past year, but other groups are doing Matthew or whatever. So if you've got a specific book or a certain group of people that you want to connect with and network with, I mean, I would probably do that.
You'd want to go where it's not freezing cold, huh? Like, yeah. Southern Cal, let's go.
Yeah, they have it in October or November every year in Des Moines, and it's not typically snowing, but it's usually pretty cold and kind of miserable. But I live here and it's only 20 minutes away, so I can't complain. The lodging costs are free. So
there you go. Hey, we didn't do this at the beginning. We need to do, like, how do we connect with Brett? You want to cover all that?
Yeah, I was just going to say, if you said you're an associate pastor at a church in Des Moines, if somebody's in the Des Moines area, or they're traveling in for the Simeon Trust workshop and they're looking for a church to visit that week, how do they find your church? What's your church? Or how do they get a hold of you if they have questions for you? And how can we connect with you, Brett?
Yeah. So I'm the associate pastor of discipleship at the Mission Church in Urbandale, Iowa. They can find our church website at themissiondsm.org. Or if they want to connect with me, I have a website that I need to update terribly at displaythegospel.com. So
awesome.
So displaythegospel.com or themissiondsm.org is how you can get a hold of Brett. If you're in the Des Moines area, give him a call. Let him know you're a Salty Believer listener. Maybe he'll take you out to lunch or something.
If they've been listening for a long time, they'll remember all the episodes Brett was on.
That's
right.
So, awesome. Well, thank you so much for your time today, Brett. I appreciate it. Until next time.
Thanks for listening. Salty Believer Unscripted is a production of SaltyBeliever.com. Visit the website to find more resources like the podcast you've just listened to.